Oh boy. Oh boy. Hello again, Internet. How have you guys been doing? Have you been faring well? You been living life? I know I have. At least been trying. So, I've had a bit of an absence. I've reneged on my duties as of late. I'm sorry. Hopefully I can get back on track and start making that up. Definitely not my proudest thing. It's just the whole situation with Jagex has sapped me of motivation, right? And so, because I am sapped of motivation due to the current state of the world and a lot of things, it was tough for me. But now we're back. We're in there like swimwear. And so, I think I've found what I'm going to do next, at least working on it. And it's not purging. Not yet, at least, but I've started this game, and I'm still a baby, little babby. I have a lot of work to do. I'm not even out of Shadowbringers yet. In the past thing, I've been grinding hard, but I figured why not go over what exactly I do when I start a new video game. You know, how am I going to apply concepts like delayed gratification to a new game? Where am I going and what are my plans basically for the future? And maybe you can learn at least the approach I like to take to video games and sort of apply it to other video games, think about things, see what you want to do. Right, so I think that's a good at least start. So, woo, fire. First of all, we need some incense. We're having a nice relaxing day here, staring out the window at the night. Very me, obviously. But yeah, I figured I would just talk. So I'm pretty sure at this point I'm done with RuneScape, sadly. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but, you know, it is what it is. Jagex is a garbage company, and the only hope for video games really relies in the East. Like, I can't play Western trash anymore. I could never watch Western media, and now it's so pervasive and it's so crept up into even video games. I can't enjoy them if they're made by a Western company, as it would appear. It's not like Square Enix is somehow superior to Jagex on like a moral front. I'm sure they still have pride banners and all of that over Twitter, but at least I'm not seeing it in game. I can log in and I don't see a rainbow flag and it's June. That to me is at least good enough in modern day. And yeah, the game is pay to win. You can purchase extra retainers and a lot of the other aspects that Asian cultures don't seem to mind as much as we do here in the West. And again, you know, it is what it is, right? I'm not entirely against like pay to win aspects because at the end of the day it's, you know, mostly just economy related and it doesn't really impact me too much. Obviously in a perfect world it wouldn't exist. It's not like I'm making up for it, but you know, there is no game currently available where you're going to completely avoid all of that. There's no pristine perfect experience, right? You have a limited set of choices, and I'm picking at least what I think is the best one, short of quitting video games. And I'm not quite prepared to do that, because what would I do with my time then? But, anyways, so let's start about how I'm starting this game, what I'm thinking about going forward, what are the basics, so, okay, adventures are, yeah. So, when I start a video game, I'm trying to apply the concept of delayed gratification, right? I want to get bonuses starting off early that are going to snowball and continue to accrue value as I play the game. So in this game, obviously that's the aforementioned retainers or whatever. They're little dudes you send out on missions. They go and get you stuff, right? Like mine are doing stuff now. And they also are your auction house dudes. I think you can only get 2 of them without spending extra money. And so that's like the primary means of like establishing passive income. So this is going to come into later when I reveal the full plan of what my at least short-term goals in this game are. But for right now, that's, you know, the primary one is getting those retainers up. While I do quests, whenever I'm back in town, just send them back out on something. Like obviously I haven't been perfect with it. I'm nowhere near efficient. They're still pretty low level, but you know, eventually I will get them to a point where at least they're acceptable. They're doing good, right? As opposed to what they're doing right now. So there's a ton of work as far as going to that, which has potential. And you can send them out to get specific stuff. You need to like gear them out endgame. I'm not quite sure how it all works and how valuable it'll be, but it's something that's free. So I at least see that as a requirement. And yeah, sorry my UI is kind of a mess. I just started the game, so everything's all kinds of junk. But, you know, it's clean enough, at least for me, to where it looks like, you know, it has what I need at least to see. So I'll probably fix it up later and organize it better than this, but anyways, so immediately when you want to start accruing delayed gratification, you want to start rolling bonuses working, like, you know, ventures. So that's the immediate first goal. And then stuff like the Grand Company, what rank am I? I know I'm stymied now because I'm still waiting on so this rank, I think this is the highest you can get right now, but I'm still waiting on some bloody people to apply to my thing so I can start running command missions, which are going to be the next topic. So we've gotten that, which is just a way where I can sell stuff for Grand Company seals. I think I have a bunch. I have a lot of storm seals just from selling gear, and this will turn into ventures. I find this to be more valuable than Gil at the moment, just because I can turn them into the venture coins, and that'll start snowballing out of control. And probably whatever those guys go and farm me endgame is going to be more valuable than the storm seals. I just have to assume it's so because I can send them out to do it. And if not, I can always just start vendoring gear instead. But I have a feeling that's going to be more valuable than anything else as far as passive income goes. I can't tell for certain, but everything I've read and looked into, that seems like it's a good idea. And also leave allowances are pretty much how I plan to level up my crafters. Right now I'm only going for alchemy. If we look at what I'm currently leveling, this will come into play soon, but where is it? Oh, it's this thing. Yeah, so alchemist, just because I saw there's a leave quest someone was talking about at endgame that has really simple materials and it gets you like 100k a day for free. So, you know, I'm not sure if I'm going to level up all of these because you can repair your gear when you get them to a certain extent. I think it's 80 for the max level gear, but I'm not sure if there's a cheap way of doing that. Being able to repair your own gear obviously is going to provide long-term benefit, and that's on the menu early on. It's a lot of work, and I'm not quite sure how the entire system works. So that'll be probably a more medium-term goal than an immediate one. You know, paying the extra, like 10, 50, 100k that I'm going to spend in repairs realistically, rather than learning and leveling up all of these, I think at least early on my time is more valuable spent getting through the story and unlocking more content as far as rewards go than focusing strictly on that. Although if you can make a case for that, but that's currently what I'm thinking about doing. So immediately after I have recurring benefits, my next thing I'm going to look for, you know, as far as delaying gratification, is going to be long-term convenience things. And convenience to me is very important when I play any video game. That'll go into the big plan going forward, but again, that plays into the Grand Company stuff because I want to get those squadrons up and leveled. So if I want to say, like, you know, make a new like an alt class, or I guess they're called job, yeah, classes / job. So if I want a second job here, like let's say I want to level up Dark Knight, I can have the squadrons and just mostly AFK and just let them solve the dungeons and have to put in minimal effort, right? So that works to 50 or 60. I'm not sure at what point it stops working. The information's kind of outdated and kind of all over the place with this game, and there's a ton of misinformation and just illogical garbage with this game. Not sure about why that is, but that's realistically how it works. So at least going forwards, that's what I'm looking for to start off with. And then so the next thing though I really want to start working on after that is I haven't unlocked it yet, but this thing called Trust. I guess I can open up the duty support menu. So for instance, these dungeons, you can have NPCs much like the squadrons level up and do things with you. And we'll get into this in a little bit, what the great plan with trusts are, but so I ideally want to level up 3 characters starting off just to take advantage of the duty system. So in duties, you can see like healers here. If I wanted to play my Sage and get these benefits, you know, boom, Sage with garbage gear or whatever. I'll work on gearing up all the alts later. I still need to buy the level 80 stuff for the warrior, the stuff you buy with the tombstones, these things. You get them all the time, so ideally I want to have at least a DPS, a healer, and one tank at the level cap so I can do and minimize and maximize the benefits from these, because again, that's going to provide a lot of long-term benefit. I don't think most of these are worth doing, like some Gil and Poetics, which Poetics after a certain point I'm pretty sure are just going to be invested into Gil. Like realistically, beyond going after some relics that I intend to get the Warrior Relic, by the way. That's a medium core goal, but that's like a spoiler. But the Ragnarok Zeta looks good, and I wanted it for Transmog, so, well, whatever they call it, Glamour instead of Transmog in this game. So that's going to be, you know, a goal, but again, Poetics, I plan to, as another medium goal, is to farm up all of the, what do you call it? All of the Ironworks and Shire gear, and then whatever the next one is called, Crypt something I think I saw. So I need to farm up all of the sets for every single class and just have them all here and just lined up. So I will have that benefit for when I'm grinding to, you know, just be able to squadron to level 50 and use dungeon drops, instantly equip full Abyss for, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then manage that way, just because long term that's going to be beneficial. So, and so for like leveling alts, for, I'm not sure if I'm going to level up every class to 90 or just the ones I like. At the moment, I'm weighing the options on that, but, you know, there's no reason not to. It's like heirloom gear in WoW, right? You never know when you're going to need it, so you might as well get it, because it is basically free with a lot of the queues and all of that. So, now on to the, like, immediate short-term goals. So what I'm looking for, as far as convenience, is getting to a point where I don't actually have to play the game to be getting a lot of benefits in it. So RuneScape is a lot like that, where you can basically watch anime and play the game. And usually when I'm talking about things I want to do in a video game or early game goals, it's getting to that sort of state where I can get my recurring benefits rolling, get all of that going. And if I'm trying to play a game long term, I want to have something where I can basically not even play the game. And that's where the trust system comes in. So I was researching this system, and I can't believe more people don't talk about abusing it. I haven't unlocked it yet, but it's this thing, but you can like level them NPCs up. And in fact, the thing about it is you can use these NPCs to farm the in-game currency and like even the highest dungeons. Right as of the time of recording this video, the highest level dungeon drops 625 eye level gear, and also awards 80 of, what are these? The Tombstones of Causality. So Tombstones of Causality. So these, I believe, are the uncapped ones that you can farm infinitely, and these are, and it also drops these, but you can cap these out anyways. But so one of the advantages of leveling up these trusts is from what I understand how the system works and what I've experimented with using duty support, is they're timered so that they're going to take around 25 minutes to complete the dungeon, and their damage is scaled basically around that value. So you doing anything really, at least in my initial testing, I might be proven wrong later by this when I further test it out at endgame, but from my initial testing just with the duty support and messing around, it looks like their damage scales to around 25 minutes per clear, no matter how you pull or how you go about it really, or how much damage you personally do. So if I'm going to enjoy a 25-minute dungeon clear whenever I'm using the trust system, right? And you look, so the high-end dungeon, or the highest level dungeon, it drops 625 gear, 80 of those, and then some odd number of the weekly currency. So capping the weekly currency is not that difficult, right? But, you know, we're looking at we basically get our 2 free of these an hour, and then we combine that with running 2 trusts an hour while watching anime, and we're getting 160 of these. So that's a piece of the freebie gear, which is 620, I believe, like one of the accessories. So it costs the accessories cost like 300 something, right? And you're getting 160 of these every hour with the AFK trust strategy. So basically you're free farming all. So if you're someone that wants to play like every single class or spec, or have access to every single class and spec, if you math it out, it's a tremendous amount of these, and I believe you need these for the relic weapons as well, like 3,000 currently to get a 630 weapon. And yeah, and all of this is like casual garbage, right? Like this is mostly low item level stuff. Like who cares about 625, you know, dungeon loot or 630 relic weapons? You can literally buy 640 gear off the auction house. Let's actually go and look at it. But one of the reasons is I'm interested in the game for the long term, right? So I'm not considering just going and spending my GP, or my gil I should say, yeah, my gil, on something that's here today, gone tomorrow, because this is the last tier of the expansion from what I understand. So there might be more content that's more demanding, like other extreme and trials and all that, but the item levels aren't going to shift that much. So for instance, buying the expensive, let's just go do it. Oh, it has to be 90. Okay, but whatever. But buying this, I guess, is what it is. What is this? Yeah. So this is 640 stuff, and that costs. Okay, that guy is just being a big old scammer boy. But yeah, so this is like 250k a piece, and that's not a lot of gil. Obviously, you can farm if you're trying to actually farm gil. I believe even just vendoring stuff is like 100k an hour, assuming you're, you know, farming old world content that drops like a decent amount of gear. At least the stuff people farm for seals, and you're just vendoring that. So that's not a lot of money to be able to buy expensive stuff, right? And just outfit all your characters with it if you wanted to go and farm gil. And so that's one option, but for me personally, I'm more interested in passive gameplay and accruing benefits without having to invest much personal time, right? So I can do other things, or I can, you know, have that be an AFK. When I'm actually playing the game, I'm going to want to be working towards long-term things that are going to impact me into the next expansion. So I'm going to want to, you know, farm the shiny weapon that I want, the Ragnarok Zeta or whatever axe. It has that red glow when you unsheath it. Like this one has a glow, but it's you know, pathetic compared to what I've seen the Ragnarok Zeta looks like. So at least if we're going forward and looking towards a future, I'm not so interested in like the present or what'll get me the highest item level immediately. And so there's also some other benefits about the trust system, like in this whole strategy of using the trust system to AFK dungeons. If I'm playing a tank, for instance, how good is this trusted healing? I'm going to experiment with it obviously going forwards, but if, let's say I can just, you know, pop all my cooldowns, get more threat than the boss has health, whatever I need to do that point, and then alt plus tab. So let's say I, you know, spend 15 seconds on the boss and then I'm accruing vuln stacks. If the healer in that trust can keep me up through that and they can actually clear it without me having to do anything, like this is just theoretical, I'm not sure if I can do that yet. That means I can literally tab back in, pull a pack, you know, do a few AoEs, and then just alt tab, which I'm sure it probably can do that just fine, and not have to pop defensives. And then I can do that, and it doesn't really matter how fast I pull because the, you know, the AI's damage is going to scale, so it takes me about the same amount of time to clear the dungeon no matter what. So single pulling, double pulling, all of that really doesn't matter because the NPCs are going to scale their damage based on a round of 25-minute clear. So I can do something like that. I probably would die if I double pulled, I would assume, but maybe I could do it single pull and just AFK and just have the NPC heal me. And then if I can also do that for bosses, then I'm basically spending maybe 30 seconds a dungeon of actually playing the game. Well, probably more than that if it's single pulls. Like, you have to assume there's, you know, 2 mob packs and then a boss 3 times, so probably like 2 minutes out of every like dungeon, so maybe 4 minutes of actual playtime an hour to be able to get the 160 second to end game tombs and cap these without actually having to interact with other players or do anything. And so, you know, that's a pretty, you know, positive benefit there. I don't have to worry about pugs or do anything or play with anyone, and I can accrue, you know, causality tomes and eventually get to the point where I am getting all of this random 625 gear, so I've gotten all my alt specs geared out to the point where they can at least start raiding normal or do, you know, all of the queues and not have to worry so much. And then as far as breaking into the end game from that point forward, so the short term is basically getting my trust leveled up. And how am I going to do that? Like, my main has to do the main story quests, right? Or else I can't even unlock trust, so it'll all be moot. And he's already level 80. He's trucking right along, you know? He's zooming, so the idea that I'm going to be able to, level trust with him, it seems like a waste. That's where the two alts come in, though. So as you've seen, thankfully we get two characters that are starting their 70s, Reaper and Sage. I've already done like a little bit of things on them with the duty finder, etc. Just for, getting the benefits. Like this sometimes needs deeps. I'll queue and machinist and all that. I just was messing around with them. I don't like them as much. And they started a low level, but the trust start at Shadowbringer's content, so I can level those two characters using only trust. After this warrior hits 90, get my weekly cap, which is the only really thing that matters late term, level up the trust with those two characters, and then I have, the level 90s all done. And then I basically need to figure out how to get my item level high enough to queue for the latest raid, and I might be able to do that just through trusting through dungeons, but that seems like it would be a lot slower. I probably will just go and do the earlier raids of the expansion, and then apparently the loot is uncapped in those, so you can just keep running them until I have the item level that's required, or maybe I'll buy a few pieces just to get, I think it's 605 I need for the final dungeon, and I'm not sure how that'll impact my gear compared to having higher eye level, because I don't know exactly how syncing works. It says it's on the wiki it's synced at 630, so I don't know if I go in there at 605 if it's going to sync me up, or if it's going to... Ooh, screen freeze. Does OBS not like this? Oh, well that fixed it, whatever that was. Weird. I might have to troubleshoot OBS with this game, but, so let's say that it syncs me up, then I don't really need to have any more than, 630 or 605 item level anytime soon, and I should be able to very quickly get to the point where I can queue the normal. Yeah, I understand you need to do the normal, I believe, 12 times, which is coincidentally the amount of times you need to be able to fully cap yourself out as far as weeks go with this currency. So, at that point I have the free, casual set maxed out at around 3 months of time, no matter what I do, right? So I could potentially give the normal tokens to, say, my Reaper DPS. And so, at least at the start, what I'm going to be doing is pushing those 3 to 90 just to have them and the trust maxed out, so I have passive income, I have, the ventures all going, and all of that passive set up so that I can AFK, and yeah, I know I need one more person to be able to do it. I need another recruit. I only have 3. But at the point when I have all of that maxed out, I'm able to sort of accrue all of this without having to actually play the game, and then when I actually play the game I can do things that I enjoy and not have to worry about all of this weekly currency nonsense. And I'm going to get there at the same pace 3 months down the line either way, except if I say hoard my normal tokens that I get from the normal raid, I can choose to maybe gear out the Reaper. Depending on how the AI of the trust works, it might make more sense for me to actually gear the Reaper out instead of the warrior. One, because there's probably a lot of fate farming and other miscellaneous farming I'm going to want to do, and doing that on a DPS class that's very mobile, like the Reaper, who, he has that, which is just fat. The warrior has a charge, but I have a feeling that for a lot of the dungeon spam I might be doing at 90, specifically the old world content, just to collect seals, and maybe I'll do some gold farming to buy 640 gear. I don't know at the moment. That seems like a waste of time, but I might do it anyways. But I know I shouldn't. But I might not even spend the gold on that, though. There might be something I think of a couple weeks down the line where I want a massive amount of gil for something that might be beneficial. More so than just a gear that I can get out of normal raid passively to gear up my alts. But I may gear up the Reaper first, even though I plan to main warrior. Of course, I'm playing a warrior. If you know me in MMORPGs, I'm kind of a warrior guy. I might not sound like it, but I actually am. But anyways, going forward with that, that's the initial strategy is basically having all of that passive and AFK income working in my favor, and then trying to test how far I can exploit it And so I'll report back on that. I might make a guide on like playing Final Fantasy XIV AFK or something, because I haven't really seen anyone talk about that. At least not, I haven't. Someone might have already had these ideas before, and I might be totally copywriting them, but, you know, so be it. I'll accept the strike. But yeah, so that's like the short-term goals of things that I want to get done is, you know, get those characters all ready to go, all of them at least, you know, normal raid tier eye level, just so I can queue for whatever and always be reaping the benefits of, again, the duty finder, getting the adventure in need, because you might as well, right? And who knows, I might want to play, if I actually want to play with other people for once, I might, you know, not want to have to tank every single time or only be one-dimensional, have one character. I'll have, you know, a Reaper, a Sage, you know, the Warrior. I might level up a Machinist too. I've been enjoying that class when I've been testing it. But yeah, obviously I haven't tested barely anything in the game. And I will probably, for short-term goals, spend like a couple days on gatherers and then researching the crafting system and decide how far I want to go with that. If I just want to get far enough to be able to repair my gear and then call it good, or if I actually want to get invested into it. But it seems like it's mostly free if you're not trying to min-max the script gear. At least for crafting, seems pretty alright. I'm not sure about getting the relics, if that's going to be a requirement or something I'm going to be interested in, but that's just the start. And then after all of that's done, where I'm at a good place in the game where I feel like I've got the basics all set up, at that point it's going to be time to start working on the medium tier goals. So what are my medium tier goals, at least for how I'm thinking about approaching the game? So obviously the most important thing is looking cutie, feeling cutie. So I've already mentioned it, but I want to farm the Ragnarok Zeta from the original game's relic quest, and that's a little bit of a grind, so that'll be fun. Some other ideas is I probably want to work on the net. This might be a long-term goal depending on how difficult I actually find it. Looking on the internet, it doesn't seem to be that challenging, and Endwalker seemed to have made it a lot easier, but you know, so it's not as big of a flex as it used to be, but definitely Necromancer title, as well as the you know, Fallen Hero or Future Hero and all of that other stuff. Basically soloing the 3 deepest dungeons to their hardest difficulty. Not because I think it's going to be particularly challenging, it's more of an exercise in your ability to waste time, but Lord knows I've maxed on old school RuneScape and I have an Iron Man with like 2,600 total, or 2,060 total. I am, you know, most interested in displaying how much I can waste my time. Like, very proud about that, so that's kind of up my alley as far as things that I want to get done and want to start working towards. And then long-term goals are going to be things like the endgame and Savage rating. So after I've completed, you know, sort of the things I can do myself, maybe I might get into Savage rating this tier. It is the end of the expansion, so they've already said it's not coming this year, so I at least have 5 months, which, you know, I imagine the goals I've stated will be done before that point. They might not. I might get stuck or I might get sidetracked and the plans might change, but just from approaching it from a new perspective and just like going ham, that's immediately what I'm thinking as far as like long-term stuff will be like Savage rating, maybe trying to complete the ultimates, getting into all of that shenanigans. So that kind of stuff seems to be fun as well. And, you know, I want to delay that by at least 3 months because at that point I have, you know, I've maxed out on the, what is this? The Tombstone of Comedy. So I'm not sure if I'm going to spend these immediately or if I'm just going to hold them and then wait to see if I might want to specifically purchase some pieces before others or how I want to go about it. But looking at it, you know, there's no rush to actually spend the currency. It doesn't look like there's any cap for like, you know, a month, so I can pretty much sit on them for an entire month and then make the decision if I want to like buy something or not, which is I may or may not do. You know, I obviously will be playing the warrior main, so those currencies will be going to the warrior, and then I just have to think about what pieces I want to purchase. It seems like getting rings might be an issue, so like my final Savage set of gear might be like the normal ring and then this currency ring, so that could be something that could happen. The normal, whatever the latest raid is called, yeah, who cares? But you know, that might be the initial thing that happens, will be something like that. So the ring purchase does make sense as a first purchase, and then probably whatever will give me the most stats and is the most beneficial. I have to like do a lot of research on the different gear tiers and then figure it out. And also look at like savage drops and seeing, you know, if I'm gonna compare and contrast them. Will I prefer savage pieces in X, Y, and Z slot as opposed to, you know, that, or how I want to go about it. And maybe, you know, at some point I decide, well, I've gotten all the non-savage pieces. I can then buy the, you know, 640 crafted gear into the pieces that I would prefer to have savage pieces, and then maybe find people to play with. I already have one friend that's playing this game with me who's starting off fresh, so I might also just make like my own static thing or figure it out. Maybe people that are watching the YouTube can come to that too. But yeah, so those are just ideas. Again, I am new to the game, so I'm gonna have to figure out things as I go, kind of, and mostly just wing it YOLO status, as one would say. And all of that's very exciting shenanigans, so at least that's how I'm approaching the game. So, you know, whenever you're starting a new game, if you've made it this far in the video at least, you should be looking for a few things, setting up, you know, a consistent stream of income or a consistent stream of benefits in the game, and then working towards something where you can play the game without having to focus on the game. Like, if I can do trusts on the warrior, say, and, you know, actually not even move out of boss impacts and just like get threat on the boss and then let the NPCs kill it, you know, or if I can play a DPS and, you know, pull at the and then alt tab, and then let's say I can pull the boss and like teleport out of the arena somehow, still have it go. I'm going to test a bunch of shenanigans to see the best way of AFKing it, but I'll report back when I've done my testing and figured out the optimal nerdy cheesing way to be able to get resources passively. And again, there might be a cap. Square Enix might have thought about doing this. I obviously haven't experimented with this. I know you're capped at 100 instances per day in this game for like farming and anti-bot measures, but you know, trusts are 2 an hour, so it's unrealistic that you're going to hit that even with a moderate amount of guild farming. So that is just something you'll have to keep track of, but you know, it's not a big deal, I imagine. And then yeah, so, you know, and then basically delayed gratification, get some passive income rolling, get, you know, convenience, slice of life going, things that are going to improve your experience, a way you can play the game in both AFK and actively. And then you also want to start setting up some goals, some short-term and long-term goals, things to work towards, and you know, start thinking about as you get out of the early stages and if you get out of the quality of life stages, start thinking about how you're going to go about appropriating those tasks and how you're going to organize everything to, you know, hopefully get you to a point where you're feeling pretty, sitting pretty. And then, you know, things can change, ideas might shift, but that's at least the initial perspective I'm thinking. So you guys might have different ideas about how to go through, and I might just be some noob off as rocker talking about some straight Skitzo stuff, but that's always the fun of it. And I'm personally going to enjoy theory crafting, specifically class mechanics and a lot of other shenanigans about the game when I get up there and when I'm able to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little rant. It's, you know, it's gonna be a bright day. Everything's gonna be all right. We're going straight only Asian games going forward. And with that, peace. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hello again, Internet. How have you guys been doing? Have you been faring well? You been living life? I know I have. At least been trying. So, I've had a bit of an absence. I've reneged on my duties as of late. I'm sorry. Hopefully I can get back on track and start making that up. Definitely not my proudest thing. It's just the whole situation with the Jagex has sapped me of motivation, right? And so, because I am sapped of motivation due to the current state of the world and a lot of things, it was tough for me, but now we're back. We're in there like swimwear. And so, I think I've found what I'm gonna do next, at least working on it. And it's not purging, not yet at least, but I've started this game, And I'm still a baby, little babby. I have a lot of work to do. I'm not even out of Shadowbringers yet. In the past thing, I've been grinding hard, but I figured why not go over what exactly I do when I start a new video game. You know, how am I going to apply concepts like delayed gratification to a new game? Where am I going and what are my plans basically for the future? And maybe you can learn at least the approach I like to take to video games and sort of apply it to other video games, think about things, and see what you want to do. Alright, so I think that's a good at least start. So, ooh, fire. First of all, we need some incense. We're having a nice relaxing day here, staring out the window at the night. Very me, obviously. But yeah, I figured I would just talk. So I'm pretty sure at this point I'm done with RuneScape, sadly. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but, you know, it is what it is.